Good morning. How are you? Good morning, everyone. We are here today to announce the filing of a lawsuit against the City of New York and the Conservancy and other individual corporations on behalf of Anne Monoky, as well as her husband, Kurt Goldman, and family. This is an important lawsuit, we believe, for the citizens of New York City, and we believe that it has national implications. Anne was unnecessarily very badly injured as the result of a tree, big oak tree, which fell on her on West Drive in Central Park. That should not have happened. We believe that the headline to this lawsuit is that this was preventable. It was a tree which was in decay. It was a tree which a day after the incident, the Conservancy reported to the Daily News that the root structure was decayed, and that was the cause of the incident. So it is not just Anne Monoky, Kurt Goldman, and their lawyers saying that this was a rotted root system to a tree. Trees are structures. Trees are like buildings. They must be maintained, and this tree was not maintained. That is the lesson, the sad lesson, which needs to be learned from this particular incident. We believe that if we shine a bright light and a very public light on this, that we can make improvements and we can make change. And that's the reason for all of the hoopla, if I might say, and our mission is to make sure that not only Central Park is safer, but that parks around the country are safer. This was a tree which had a root system which, by a naked eye observation, was terribly, in terrible shape, I should say. This was a root system that was in terrible shape. You could see it by various open indicia on the tree. We are very concerned that the adjacent trees are in a similar condition, and that is another serious matter for citizens of New York, for people who use the park regularly. This incident occurred literally where the Pope came to visit the city. It happened right where joggers come to the finish line at the marathon, and yet these trees were then and remain now in terrible shape. In order to file a lawsuit like this, we, of necessity, did a thorough investigation. We have been given access to the tree by the City of New York through their lawyers. We filed a notice of this lawsuit a few months ago. The city has had an opportunity to meet Anne Monoky. You will be able to meet her briefly today, along with her husband, Kurt. And we have determined that the tree was indeed in very bad shape. To state the obvious, it fell in the middle of the day on a sunny day, and there is no reason that a tree should get into that condition. For those who might think at first blush that, trees decay and trees fall, and it just happens, that's not how arborists see it. Arborists see it in very different eyes. Their job is to see that trees are maintained, to see that these large structures do not become a hazard. And what was in Central Park on the day that this tree hurt Anne Monoky so terribly, what was a situation that was knowable or known and preventable. We will determine in this lawsuit what the city knew, when they knew it, what the Conservancy knew, and when they knew it. And we intend to press them long and hard, not only so that Anne is compensated, and that is an important aspect of the case. And we did file a large demand figure in this lawsuit. That's to make sure that we get the attention of everyone. We want to get the attention of the city, get the attention of the Conservancy, get the attention of New Yorkers, get the attention of the nation, so that no Anne Monoky, a young mom nursing her newborn baby, taking maternity time, is horribly injured as the result of a tree which devastates her. I'm Tom Kline. I didn't announce myself, but I'm Tom Kline. My co-counsel in this case is Jordan Merson. Mr. Merson is a lawyer at Merson Law. He also is a law partner at the Law Office of Kline Inspector. We are working together on this matter. Jordan Merson conducted much of this investigation, and I would like him to explain to you the injuries of Anne Monoky, and then we'll be happy to take anyone's questions. And Jordan also would add whatever I didn't add because I just hogged the microphone for a few minutes. So here we go.
Well, you covered it well. So we're here today for the important matter of what happened to Anne Monoky. And Anne had a number of spinal fractures, as many of you know, but the most severe of her injuries is a fracture, or multiple fractures, 4 to be exact, to her C1 vertebrae, which if you all feel to the back of your neck, you can actually feel it. It slightly protrudes from where the neck meets the spine and the back. And I think it's pretty clear that it's one of the most important bones in our body. Vertebrae is a bone, because it controls, without it, it controls your diaphragm, it controls your breathing, and it controls everything from the C1 down. So if she had 4 fractures. 2 of those fractures have thankfully healed. The other 2 fractures will never heal in her whole entire life. She is going to be in perilous risk of being a total quadriplegic. If she is bumped the wrong way, she cannot do anything that would jeopardize being bumped, being hit the wrong way, things that we all take for granted, going on the subway, running in Central Park, going skiing, however you spend your winters, being with her boys. Boys will be boys. They wrestle around. And she cannot engage with her boys in that regard ever again, because she is at risk of being a complete quadriplegic on a ventilator. So the injuries in this case are very, very serious. I know there's been a lot of discussion about the number, but if you think about what she's been through, what she may have to go through if something, God forbid, does happen, what has happened to these kids, and you take into account the severity of those injuries, as well as the profoundness and the pervasiveness of the neglect here. This was a tree that was failing in every way. It was failing right before their eyes. We have undertaken a forensic investigation with multiple experts who have reviewed every single part of the tree that has been maintained by the City of New York. From their review, and what they have informed us, it is clear as day that this tree was neglected, from the roots in through the stump. And you yourself can go and see, in part, exactly what was wrong with the tree. It is still preserved in some regard, exactly where it fell, the root plate system, as they refer to it. But the tree was overwatered, it was under-maintained, it was beaten and bruised by snow plow trucks and other apparatus. You can literally see and make out where the part of the tree that looks, the part of the root plate that looks dead versus the part that looks alive. And sure enough, when the tree fell this way, it fell this way because, as you can see, there's almost no roots because of how the tree was configured. So these are some of the things that our experts showed us, and the list really goes on and on. But this is a very serious case with very serious injuries, and we are happy to answer any questions you have about the lawsuit, about our investigation, and about Anne's injuries. We will then bring Anne out. She has a prepared statement. She will then answer a few questions. As you can imagine, this has been a very stressful time for her, and it continues to be a stressful time for her, and I'm sure you all appreciate we don't want to push her too much, but she does understand that there are people who want to know what she's gone through, and for that reason we will make her available.
What is the amount that you're seeking?
The lawsuit the requirements in New York are that in a notice of claim, you need to ask for a amount of money, and we asked for $200 million. I almost raised it to 250, but we asked for $200 million. Our point in putting that number on the case, by the way, before the full extent of her permanent injuries are known, is to have everyone understand that we believe it's a serious matter. That's our point. Our point isn't to get all caught up on the money or the money aspects of this. We have no doubt, knowing the facts of this case, that Anne's going to be compensated. And a jury of 6 in New York ultimately will make that determination unless the city voluntarily pays the Monoky Goldmans an amount of money to fairly compensate them. So we're not hung up on the amount that we put in it. There was a national news organization that focused on that this morning, and that's fine. That was our point. Our point was this is a very serious matter, and Anne was very seriously injured. She was an innocent person who was with her kids that morning, a mom with 3 kids in Central Park, and a tree fell on her and fractured her spine. And she is literally one bump away from being a quadriplegic potentially someday. That is a very, very serious matter. I'd make a couple of more points before we take questions. One is that the root system was failing. And that is something that the day after this incident was admitted by the Conservancy. You can go back, and it is reported by a spokesman for the Conservancy to the Daily News, the New York Daily News. That is a very important, and I might add, excellent piece of reporting that is in this particular case right now. Second, you can go see the stump. It's at 62nd and West Drive. And by the way, the whole pit there is filled with leaves. It's just covered over, unmaintained, I might add, with with leaves that have been in there since whenever the leaves fell from the tree. It's a long time since the leaves fell from the trees in Central Park. So you can find it. You can see it. You can find and see what we have here in the photo, only in a somewhat more decayed condition. And one other point that I would make is that this isn't subtle. This isn't esoteric. This isn't something where we went searching for the answer. We hired 2 extraordinarily qualified experts who took one look at this tree root system, the root plate is what they call it, and said, whoa, this is a tree that had every overt sign of failing. And the question to be asked of the Conservancy, the question to be asked of Central Park, since you're all asking me what questions should we ask them later today, is what's being done to maintain the trees in Central Park? Put aside the trees that are deep in the park. I know that there are tens of thousands of trees. It's a great park, and it's a treasure of not only New York City, but of the nation. But these trees were along the main thoroughfare. And this tree, which hurt Anne so badly, just fell in the middle of the day. And there is an explanation, and the explanation is not benign. The explanation, I'm sorry to tell you, is a malignant one. It was a tree which was in decay, easily identified to be in decay, easy to flag, easy to test, easy to understand what was the inevitable. This wasn't something that was a freak accident. This was an inevitable situation. It was something that was bound to happen.
Mr. Kline,
yes.
Can you talk about if you can share this, what has been discussed with the city in between time? For example, you mentioned they preserved part of the tree based on your notice. Was there a settlement offer that you could speak of prior to this lawsuit?
You mean because there was speculation this morning on TV?
On Good Morning America,
it goes
Dan
to
Abrams
I
said
know.
that he did.
Dan is a fantastic commentator and a terrific lawyer, and he knows nothing about what was going on here. There have been no settlement discussions, none, zero. So to the extent that Dan made the observation, and by the way, I get it. You might reach that conclusion if you knew nothing about the case. I can tell you, as one of the two lawyers responsible to represent the family, we have had no discussions, unless Jordan has had some that I haven't had.
We have not had discussions.
With anyone. We know each other well, by the way. He happens to be the father of my grandchildren. In addition to being my law partner. So now you know that. Now you know that secret. Isn't that a good way to put it?
It is.
Okay.
And
So
also,
we get to talk about this case all the time.
with regard to the forensic investigation, you said you hired 2 forensic
Yes.
arborists. Can you, for those of us, I mean, it sounds a very niche type of specialty.
It is.
Were there any forensic testing done? Was this just an evaluation? Can you speak more to how long that took, who these people are, and what kind of testing is undertaking in this type of situation?
We'll tell you
very
by.
interesting.
We'll tell you, and Jordan will speak to it, but we'll tell you by qualifications, not by names.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, they're both highly qualified individuals. Both have been responsible for. The city has, and the Conservancy actually has a department tasked with maintaining the tree and making sure that things like this do not happen. Okay, and both of the individuals we've hired have been, a long time ago, involved with various parks in those types of degrees. So they know the things that they know. Trees obviously very, very well, but they also, and more importantly in this case, know the things that should be looked out for, the signs and symptoms of tree failure. Because you have a situation where you have a 75-foot American elm tree that can weigh as much as 4 to 6 tons. This is a massive, massive structure. And that's what people don't realize sometimes, is that this is, if it was a monument or a very, very big sign or a very, very big traffic light, the city and the Conservancy in this case would be obligated to make sure that the bottom of that structure that's supporting possibly 4 to 6 tons, it's being monitored to be made sure that it is not failing. Because if you have a large structure and the bottom is failing, it's only a matter of time before it topples. And the city and the Conservancy, they have an entire department which is responsible for making sure that what happened in this case never happened, and they failed to do what they were supposed to do.
What type of testing did the arborists conduct, and was it a visual test, or did it include samples of the tree?
Yeah, it included a number of visual inspections and evaluations. As I'm sure you can all understand, they wanted to see how the tree responded and how the root plate responded to different atmospheric conditions. Rain, sun, late in the day, early in the day, all those things factor in to how a tree should be maintained. And did they send any specific specimens to a lab? We were not permitted to do that, so we did not do that at this time.
How long did that inspection take? Just want to clarify.
The inspection occurred over I believe, 6-week period. But you also have to understand, it's an ongoing inspection. So, we've gotten calls. We want to go and look at this. We want to go and look at that. And so I would say it's ongoing, but it took us about 6 weeks and a number of inspections to have everything in a place where we felt comfortable that we had learned essentially almost everything we needed to know about the tree to know that this was a disaster waiting to happen.
And I might add that the decay is observable to the eye, as it was to the Conservancy when the tree fell. You can go to the root system and you can see that it's decayed. It's like an open wound. It's like much of this is akin to the way a diagnosis would be made by a physician or a dentist or someone who is in the business of preventative care. That's what was lacking here, was preventative care. You could see there are certain open signs. By the way, we went by the tree yesterday and adjacent trees, and there are root systems, the root systems that are laid down there, and there's puddling in the trees, and there are sprinklers that spray on the tree. Well, my word, we were by there one day when it was raining and the sprinklers were on. So talk about overwatering. And you can see sprouts that develop, and there are other open, obvious, notorious signs that a tree has problems, that a tree is weak. Much like any of us might have something that develops that you go to the doctor and it's a sign of something more malignant. That's what we have here. You don't need to send this tree to a laboratory to actually know what happened here. You can observe it from the gross specimen. There are in this, as there are in other situations of live things on Earth, whether they be plant or animal, and you can look at it under a microscope. But you don't need to look under a microscope to determine what happened here. You can do it from a gross anatomical finding.
How much of the 75-foot tree has been preserved, and where is that now?
We've been there.
Yeah, we've been. It's preserved in multiple places. We believe nearly all of the tree had been preserved up until a point in time. A lot of this investigation took place in September, October, November, in that time frame. So I can't tell you what's been preserved to this day. I can tell you what they're obligated to preserve, and that would be the whole tree. But there are parts of the tree on Randalls Island. There's the root plate system is still where it is. I mean, it's covered by leaves and debris from being untouched, it appears, for the whole, late fall into the winter. But, I can tell you I believe that most of the tree has been preserved. And, the key parts of the tree, in our view, have been carefully evaluated.
I thought it was ironic that the tree actually, along with other notorious deadly trees, are preserved on Randalls Island. If you know what I mean, there's a symbolism there as to storing them there. You can't just go there, by the way, and it's not someplace you would drive by. But if you, like we have access through the legal system and through the litigation process, were to go there, you would see that there are offender trees. There is actually a home for offender trees.
That's true.
In the city of New York on Randalls Island, where you can find not only this tree, and you could link it back to the person who might have been injured. It is. I know it's a park facility. Yes, it's a enclosed park facility, and part of being a lawyer is being an investigator. And the two of us traipsed out to Randalls Island, and we saw the tree firsthand. But actually, the key to this whole thing is still right on West Drive. It's right there. And like I said, the leaves are on top of it, but I don't think it will be a crime to push some of the leaves apart and take a look at it.
So two places, Randalls Island and the root system.
Yes.
The other location.
Yeah,
Yes.
there was another location. The exact location escapes me, but it was in the hundreds, the East Hundreds.
Park facility.
At another park facility. There's actually a catchy phrase. The name just escapes me. I'll get it for you, but it's called like the something.
Right.
It has a much catchier phrase than I'm giving.
Other questions?
Is the tree exposed to weathering
Other
right
questions?
now? Is the tree exposed to weathering right now?
Well, the last we saw it, did it have a tarp over it the day we went there?
I don't know. And it had
It
the
had
last
another
time
tree-
I
it had another
went, I
tree
think
on
it
top
had
of it.
snow on it too. So it depends on your viewpoint as to what you consider preserve. But we were able to go and look at it and get the information that we need. I'm not going to really comment at this point on whether it's been preserved properly, because that's an issue for another day.
From a litigation standpoint, we believe we had access to the tree and the tree root system at a time when it was relevant, and we were able to make the appropriate observations. We would like to have it preserved, to state the obvious, and we've told the city and the Conservancy that they must preserve it. Other questions? Okay, here's our plan. We would very much appreciate your respecting, and I know you will, Anne's condition, You'll see, she is able to walk on her own, and she's able to come in here. She wears a neck brace. We plan to, and please don't be mad at me when I say enough, but we plan to have her answer a few questions so that you can see and understand her. I think you'll immediately recognize what a just terrific person she is and terrific person her husband is. And if you can ask her, we'll give everybody a question up till the first 4 or 5 questions, and then we're going to call it a day. But we thought it was important that people actually meet her. So we're gonna go a couple of offices
And if I would
down.
just say, whoever's
Yeah, you gotta
equipment, we
move
got to
that.
create a better
pathway
lane.
for her.
Yeah.